Thursday, 1st of December 2016, page 983. Page 984. Page 985. Page 986. Page 987. Page 988. Page 989. Page 990. Page 991. Page 992. Page 993. Page 994. Clerk, you take note. 994, 76A2 should be like the rest, willfully and knowingly, instead of who intentionally announces. We've seen that. A presiding officer, we had changed it in the previous clauses. Yeah? Take correction. 994. $9.95. 996. Senator Magatakata Wamako.
Yes. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I am Aliyu Yam Wamaku, representing Sokoto North Central District of Sokoto State. I rise to move that the vote and proceedings of Thursday, December 1st, 2016 be approved. I so move.
Senator Jeremiah Soni, Plateau South.
Mr. President, my dear colleagues, Senator Jeremiah Tumbu Duseni, I rise to second the adoption of the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 1st December 2016, as so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Thursday, 1st December 2016 be approved as amended, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Thursday, 1st December 2016 approved as amended. Announcements. Letter from Mr. President. Dear distinguished Senate President, presentation of the 2017 budget proposal and plans to lead Nigeria out of recession. I crave the kind indulgence of the National Assembly to grant me the slot of 10:00 hours on Wednesday, the 14th of December 2016, to formally address a joint session of the National Assembly on the 2017 budget proposal and our plans to get the country out of recession. Please extend, Mr. Senate President, the assurances of my highest regards to the distinguished senators as I look forward to addressing the joint session. Signed, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Senator Rafiu Adebayo Ibrahim. Your Excellency, announcement. The official launching of Rafiu Ibrahim Bilal Foundation and Constituency Empowerment Program to mark the 50th birthday anniversary of Senator Rafiu Adebayo Ibrahim will take place on Sunday, the 11th December 2016 at Offa Descendant Union ODU Hall in Offa, Kwara State by 12 noon. Interested senators should indicate and contact the legislative assistant to the senator in Suite 212 Senate Wing to enable him make adequate flight and accommodation arrangements. Signed, Senator Rafiu Adebayo Ibrahim. Letter from the Senate leader. Report on oversight The chairmen of all committees are hereby requested to lay the reports of the 2016 oversight on or before the 15th of December 2016. All chairmen of all committees to lay the 2016 oversight report on or before the 15th of December 2016, signed by Senate Leader. A reminder from the Clerk of National Assembly to remind distinguished senators who are here to submit a comprehensive list of their aids indicating designation and grade levels to promptly forward same to the office of the CNA. The National Assembly is updating the list of all legislative aids of the 8th National Assembly towards effective planning of capacity building program and also for the purpose of maintaining a comprehensive list. Please note that those legislators whose names are not forwarded by the principals will not be scheduled for payment of salaries from January 2017. Clerk of National Assembly. I wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Voyage International School, Sun City Estate, Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings. I wish you a peaceful deliberation of the Senate proceedings. Please sit down. Any petitions? Yes, Senator Oluwatoyin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do I just go straight to the petition? My name is Oluwatoyin, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. I have a petition from Ikara community, and they are a group of fishermen, women, farmers, and individuals of Ikpoba, Oka local government area of Edo State. And their petition has to deal with the oil spill they have in their community. And they have complained that NOSDRA has failed in its duty to coordinate and supervise remediation in this area. And that this supposed remediation was not supervised. And because of the failure of NOSDRA to do a good job, they are asking the Senate to look into their matter and prefer solution to that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Come on, Lady. Petitions referred to ethics and privileges report back in 2 weeks. Yes, point of order, Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Olushola Adeyeye. I represent the Central Senatorial District of the state of Osun. Order 42, matter of urgent public importance. The order reads, the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Mr. President, I have discussed with you a matter that I consider to be of national significance and to be most urgent. Last week, our nation suffered the tragedy of two of our best losing their lives in very sad circumstances. And I'm referring to the widely reported death of two youth corporals, one serving in Kano State and the other serving in Zamfara State. Both of these corporals graduated with first-class honors degree from their respective university. Both went out of state, far from their state for national service, and both met what seems to be untimely death because of what have been reported widely to be negligence in how their reported sickness was attended to. I would like to bring this motion tomorrow so that we can discuss it comprehensively.
Thank you, Chief Whip. Distinguished colleagues, in accordance with our rules, the Chief Whip discussed this matter with me, and I need to seek the leave of the Senate for this matter to be brought forward to the next legislative for consideration. So those in favor that we do this say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So the matter is stand down to the next legislative day. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. The first business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Chukwuka Otazi on the Chartered Polymer Institute Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Chartered Polymer Institute Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 396, first reading.
Chartered Polymer Institute Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 396, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
The second business of the day is still presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Olashodura Omotayo on the Adeyemi Federal University of Education Akure Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Adeyemi Federal University of Education, Akure Establishment, etc. Bill, SB 399, first reading.
Adeyemi Federal University of Education, Akure Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 399, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
The third business of the day is still presentation of a bill standing in the name of Senator Obinna Ogba on the National Youth Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, National Youth Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 385, first reading.
National Youth Development Commission Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 385, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
The fourth business of the day is the presentation of a conference committee report on the Defense Space Agency Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Robert Boniface, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report. But I cannot see distinguished Senator Boniface here. I don't know whether he's deputy. Mr. President, what of the deputy chairman?
Is the deputy chairman in the committee here? It's a conference committee. We'll just have to stand in. Let's stand it down too.
Mr. President, I therefore move a motion that we stand down the fourth business of the day to another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to support the motion.
And to second same, that we stand down the fourth business of the day to another legislative date. I so second. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we stand this item to another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Are you ready? Thank you, Mr. President. The fifth business of the day is presentation of the Conference Committee report on the environment of funds appropriated for special intervention, recurrent and special intervention capital for funding of critical, recurrent and capital items. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Sonny Ogboji, the Vice Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Sonny Ogboji.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to present the Conference Committee report on the environment of funds appropriated for special intervention, recurrent and special intervention capital for funding of critical, recurrent and capital items as well.
Senator Mohamed Nazif.
Thank you, Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues. My name is Senator Suleiman Nazif, and I rise to second that the Senate do receive the Conference Committee report on environment of funds appropriated for special intervention, recurrent and special intervention capital for funding of critical, recurrent and capital items to be laid. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the Conference Committee report on the environment of funds appropriated for special intervention, recurrent and special intervention capital for funding of critical, recurrent and capital items, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Sonny, would you come and lay the report? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is still presentation of the Conference Committee report on the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Oluremi Tinubu, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the Senate to receive the report.
Senator Oluremi Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to move the motion that the Senate do receive the Conference Committee report on the Forest Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 14. Thank you.
Senator Matthew Rogidi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Matthew Rogidi from Edo South Senatorial District, Edo State. I stand to second the motion ably moved by Senator Oluremi Tinubu that the Senate do receive the Conference Committee report, the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2016. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the Conference Committee report on the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria Establishment, etc. Bill 2016, SB 14. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Oluremi Tinubu, come and lay the report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, The first order of the day is the resumption of adjourned consideration of the report of the Committee on INEC on the INEC Act Amendment Bill 2016. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, you will recall that further consideration of the bill was deferred to another legislative day on Thursday, 1st December 2016. Mr. President, with your permission, I wish to move that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to resume consideration of the report.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the leader that we resolve into a Committee of Whole to continue the consideration of that report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we resolve the Committee of the Whole to consider this bill clause by clause, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, if you could recollect, we stopped at clause 18. We stopped at clause 17. We start from clause 18. There are 10 more clauses for us to complete this exercise. So clause 18. That's page 21. Nomination of candidates by parties. I think if you recollect, we had discussed this, and I think we had reached certain maybe I'll ask the chairman INEC to guide us on your recommendation after further consultation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. The recommendation of the committee is that the nomination of candidates by political parties should be left to the parties to decide whether to hold direct or indirect primaries. I think that was what was discussed at that time. So that is what we have spelled out here is the conditions. That is like number one, under section 87, is a political party seeking to nominate candidates for elections under this act shall hold direct or indirect primaries for aspirants to all elected positions, which shall be monitored by the Commission, and the result of every primary to elect candidates for an election to be conducted by the Commission shall be endorsed or certified by the Commission. What is different from the existing act here is that the monitoring and the certification by the Commission. This is the additional clause that we have included here. And we have also gone down to now give conditions for both direct or indirect. And they are spelled out at the bottom.
All right. Distinguished colleagues, I think we better take it one subclause each one so that we can not miss out any aspect. So 18.1, those in favor that 18.1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 18.2. We're on page 22. 18-2. Those in favor of 18-2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 18-3. Yes, Senator Lidani, 18-3.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Joshua Lidani, representing from the South. In respect of 18.3, the whole of 18.3, it seeks to prescribe the amount of fees to be paid by candidates. I think just like we discussed on the issue of the kind of party primaries to be done, I think it should be left to the discretion of the parties concerned. Let the party decide the kind of fees it should prescribe, not for us to prescribe it in the law, because there will be certain situations where we need to review the law. When do we have to come back for the law to be reviewed? Let it be an exclusive party matter. Thank you.
Do you want to comment on that, or is there something? Yeah, Chairman INEC, do you want to comment on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, what it says here, 18.3, is not what has been prescribed, but not to exceed. What we are saying is not to exceed certain amount.
But surely we should leave all that to the party to decide what. So can you make a recommendation, Senator Liliani, and then somebody second, in line with what the argument you brought forward?
Thank you, sir. If I may suggest say that for the purpose of nomination of candidates for election, each political party shall determine the fees, charges, and dues. Or we delete the entire, either we delete the entire provision, or we say that for the purpose of nomination of candidates for election, or we delete it. Yes. So we agree it should be a party matter. Sorry, sir. I am saying, sir, it should be deleted. Let it be deleted.
Mr. President,
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the noise in the chamber is so much. We are considering a very important bill here. It's good that members should pay attention and let's look at this thing. Please. Order 56. It's order 56, sir. And it's specifically directed to Mr. Baribe. Yes,
The point of order is sustained. Distinguished colleagues, honestly, we are considering a very, very important report. And there's no way we can listen or contribute if there's so much noise. Let us pay attention so that we can move quickly on this item. Minority Leader.
Thank you. Mr. President, thank you. In fact, I was going to add to that even though some people may appear partyless for now, because of the confusion, that it is important we pay serious attention to this, because it will haunt us in future. In my opinion, it might be slightly different. I would think that looking through the requirements here, there are instances in which we make laws and we impose fines, and then we put the amount of the fines in the law. I think this is based on the experience from 1999, where political parties have made it impossible for very qualified candidates to contest election because of the kind of amount they impose on nomination forms. This one is saying not exceeding. It is saying not above. So since it is not exceeding, let it not go above. I think it means that they can go less. And so if this places a ceiling, I think it's totally not right. Otherwise, we see a situation whereby a very qualified presidential candidate like me may come up tomorrow because of inability to afford 2056. may come up tomorrow, and because of the inability to afford 100 million,
imposed on nomination form, then you are shut out from the system. So I think we should leave it as it is now.
So that we can make progress. I think the simple way is just to put the question. Those in favor that clause 3 plus 18.3 stands part of the bill, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18.4. Those in favor of the 18.4 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 18.5. 18.5.
Barrow Jibril, Kano North. So this section does not envisage a situation where an earlier primary election could be cancelled. Sometimes there could be primary election and then that could be cancelled due to some reasons. So I am suggesting that we should include when there's a cancelled primary election. So after the end, because you read this way, every political party shall publish the venues, dates, time, guidelines, procedures, and other relevant information of the primaries, convention, or any event conveyed for the purpose of nominating candidates for the party in at least 2 national newspapers, in at least 10 days before the date of the event to nominate candidates for the party. So I want this to be extended by saying unless when unless when there's an earlier primary election that was cancelled, when 2 days notice should be given before the rescheduled primary election. Do you understand? What I'm saying is this: there could be a cancelled primary election, and there could be a rescheduled primary election. So if you say 10 days before any primary election, then there could be problem if the earlier one is cancelled. If the earlier one is cancelled and you schedule another one, you therefore, by this, you are saying there should be 10 days before that scheduled primary election. I hope I'm clear. Except for the scheduled election. Or inconclusive election. 2 days.
Except for the scheduled election, in which case must be
2 days, sir. At least 2 days.
Anybody seconding this amendment? Yes, Chief Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second that amendment, knowing fully well that if you cancel the first one, there may not be another 10 days before the deadline for submission to INEC, and so I so second.
So, I'll read the amendment to put to question. Amendment for 18.5, every political party shall publish the venues, date, times, guidelines, procedures, and other relevant information of its primaries, convention, any event conveyed for the purpose of nominating candidates for the party in at least 2 national newspapers and at least 10 days before the date of the event to nominate the candidate for the party, except for the scheduled primaries, in which case 2 days will be required. Yes? Those in favor of 18.5 as amended say aye. Stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, even though we are amending the amendment, honestly speaking, from a point of experience, every political party shall publish the venues, dates, times, guidelines, procedures. This sounds very okay in law, but there are instances in which a local government or a venue is very volatile, and there is need to move the primaries to a safer ground. We saw that in many instances in the past. For instance, sometimes we have to move primaries of even House of Assembly to a Mopo base because of security and the number of talks and miscreants. So where that happens, automatically the result of such primary will be notified by virtue of this or our legislation. I don't think, no, if you publish it and then you move it because of security reasons, I think this is where I'm coming to. There are instances in which, due to security reasons, the venue earlier slated for a primary would now becomes impossible because of the need to ensure that people do not die. We have had such instances in the past. So if we leave it as it is now, every primary election will be notified by the court on grounds that it was not held in the venue that was published. That's number one. Then secondly, yes, not during government house, we can move into the villa where the president can pretend for us. Now, Mr. President, a second point is that there are some political parties that are so insolvent. Chief Whip, I thought you said order. Order. Mr. President, there are some political parties that are so insolvent that going to a national daily to publish primaries continuously will be impossible for them because of lack of funds. So I don't think publishing in a national daily should not be mandatory, but publishing could be mandatory because publication could be in person same on the wall of the political party's office or circulating same maybe within INEC and other places, but in national dailies, supposing they don't have the money, in some instances 650,000, you go to 2, you need 1.7 million, and some of the political parties may not have money. But I don't think we should make a law that will disenfranchise any group or any political party. So my amendment would be that we amend the amendment to ensure that we take security consideration, that where venue, or maybe it will be an added one, I don't know how the chairman of INEC sees it, that where the published venue becomes impossible due to security reasons, that the political party is at liberty to move the primary to a venue that will not lead to loss of lives. And that
Chairman INEC.
Mr. Chairman, I was actually conferring with my colleague. No, on direct primaries. No. No, we're on 18.5.
Yes. On venue and publication.
Senator Dino Malai, I'll come back to you, Chairman. Where's Senator Moagege? Oh, okay. Let me take Senator Dino Malai, then I'll come back to you guys' comments.
Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, Dino Melai, Kogi West, I want to say that the comment by the minority leader on the issue of security makes some very logical sense, that there may be prevailing circumstances that may necessitate shifting of venue, especially if there is tension. So I think it will be out of place to add that clause that except there is a security threat to the election, venues can be changed. But for the second point of payment, I beg to disagree that a political party that will not be able to publish announcement in 2 national dailies is not fit to be a political party. These political parties, they are publishing venues of elections. The implication is that ab initio, they must have collected monies from candidates who are interested in running from their political parties. And if you don't publish in national dailies, then automatically you are disenfranchising those who are outside. If you say that you send advertorials in local dailies within their communities, a man who is from that place can go to court and say he's been disenfranchised from
running election on the platform of that political party. So I want to say that the issue of advertorials is being a standard, and I think that's what it's always been. But for the issue of security, I want to concur with the uncommon leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Abdullah Gumel. I come from Jigawa, northwest of Jigawa State. Mr. President, I want to object to this security reason because as the committee, the intentment is that from the experience in 2 primaries of the PDP, one for Taraba State and the other one for Adamawa State, without any security thing, they brought that primaries to Abuja, and that wise we made that provision. So if we put that blank provision that for security reasons, it will be abused. So this is the intentment, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Supported.
Senator Kara.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Tijani Hayakaura Zamfara North. I still want to hammer on the issue of security, Mr. President. I think we cannot put issue of security here, because if you say that for security reasons you make provisions for shift of venue, then you have created a situation where if a certain group within a political party is not satisfied with a certain venue, they can simply go there and create problems so that they will create situation for a change of venue. Yes. And I think this should be kept as it is. We must be aware that there could be security challenges anywhere and at any time. So when that comes up, we take decisions on that. Thank you.
Distinguished colleague, is there anybody seconding the minority leaders? So we just move on to the next item. 18.6. There was no question, there was no seconder. We've already approved the 5. He was asking for an amendment. Okay, former Commissioner of Finance, Senator Albert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the amendment ably moved by our indefatigable minority leader, His Excellency the former governor.
The seconder to the amendment by the minority leader and Akwa Ibom politics, seconded by the former commissioner, Senator, gubernatorial aspirants. Those in favor of this amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The nays have it. Don't worry about it. We have noted your loyalty. 86. 86. It's good to be loyal. Those in favor that 18.6 stands part of the say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 18.6a. So let's take it. Can we just take 18.6a? And I'll take that question again. Those in favor that 18.6a stands part of this, say aye. Okay, DSP.
Let me start by commending the committee for retaining this issue of direct primaries and for bringing some fresh perspective to it. I just want to add, sir, that the beauty of direct primaries is not just in direct primaries. There is also the aspect of it which is staggered, in the sense that if you are talking about holding direct primaries in the 36 states, it shouldn't hold in one particular day. That's where confusion comes in. But if it is staggered as in America, it gets more people involved. It gets the security agencies. It makes things easier for security agencies, because if, for instance, they are dealing with Sokoto today, they all move to Sokoto. If you are going to Borno, you are joining moving to Borno. But if you are doing it in one day, it means that they will be thinly divided and going to have problems. So I want to amend section 618 to read, conduct a staggered direct primaries in the registration areas in the 6 states of the Federation and the FCT, where all registered members of the party shall be eligible to vote and may freely vote for any presidential aspirant of their choice. Just to add before the word direct, a staggered direct primaries.
The decision to stagger or not to stagger.
Any loyal senator from Enugu State? Any seconder? Senator Hope Ozoziba?
I'm very loyal.
Yeah, I rise to second that we include the staggering of the direct primaries as contained.
Yeah, I so second.
So let's just take the information from Senator Mwagege and I'll put the question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Viomo Agege, Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, if you go to page 38 of 52, so paragraph 19, it addresses what the DSP has just raised, the issue of staggered primaries. And I thought before any vote is put to the vote, we should look at it. So paragraph 19, page 38. Page 38, paragraph 19. Subsection 19.
So let me put the question. Those in favor that 1686A stands part of this, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that 186B stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 186C. Those in favor that 186C stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Ayes have it. 186D on page 28. Those in favor of 1860 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor of 187. Those in favor that 187 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 188. Senator Jibril.
Sir, this session, sorry, my name is Barrow Jibril Kano North. This session has excluded super delegates from participating in the primary election, which is something that is quite abnormal, because I know in every part of the world where you have primary election, there are direct elected delegates and there are super delegates. So I want the super delegate to be included. And I mean, what I mean by that, I mean elected party officials as well as elected representatives of the people, like members of the National Assembly, State Assembly, councillors, and so on and so forth. They are excluded from this exercise.
In this clause, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, the issue of super delegates was not mentioned, and so also in the former Electoral Act. So the issue of indirect primaries only stated delegates, and I believe the party's constitution can spell out who the delegates would be and how it should be.
Has the right to decide who his delegates are. Chairman. Yes, Senator. Do you want to comment on that, or should I get some other people's views if you don't? Let me take from Senator Lani. Chairman, just wait a second. Senator Lani, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Joshua Lidani, I don't know why they are saddling the parties with all these provisions. I thought that when we agreed that we should leave the issue of the kind of system to be adopted by each political party to the party concerned, we should leave it to prescribe the kind of guidelines that it would like to use. We shouldn't be prescribing all this procedure for the political parties. Let the political parties make the provision in its constitution. Then the party will decide the kind of delegates it should have, whether it's going to be direct or indirect, and so on. But for us now to descend by prescribing the kind of delegates, how it's going to be done, and so on, I think it's totally unnecessary. Let us just leave it to the political party. If it decides to adopt indirect system of primaries, let the constitution make provision. The only thing we can say is let it be done in a fair and transparent manner. That's all.
Yeah, leader.
Mr. President, Mr. Chair, and distinguished colleagues, I think what the committee is trying to do is based on experience that we have, that any gap we leave, the political parties try to use that to change or sideline. So, in as much as we are preparing or drawing this bill, we should, as much as possible, try to, provide the necessary guideline that will enhance the credibility and transparency of the conduct of political party, their primaries, and the election therein. We know what the PDP did, so we have to look at it and avoid anything like that in the future. No, the APC is just coming, so we have to do everything. It's very important. No, jokes aside, please. What the observation distinguished Senator Joshua is making it makes some sense. But the law here is to make you follow a specified procedure of doing things. So I think defining how it should be conducted to some extent is something that we really need to do.
Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, the observation made by the leader, for me, is very valid in the sense that he has specified that it is based on the experience of what he saw PDP did. And now, we have also seen what APC has been doing. And if we make a law, according to the action of a political party, it means laws will have to be changed every 6 months or every time there's a change of government. I think we should make a law that will last. What is happening here is that every political party has a constitution, and every political party also has guidelines for conduct of either direct or indirect primaries. So if we make a law in these chambers that we should have either direct or indirect primaries, then we go back to specify how direct and indirect primaries should be. We're indirectly saying that we don't believe in the constitution of the parties or even the guidelines of the parties, which normally must be submitted to INEC. I think we should have a reconsideration of this, even if we have to give it back to the Committee on INEC to go and tinker with it. And or we sit down here and see the best way to go about it, because we should not make a law that becomes some kind of tautology. We must not make a law that makes it impossible for even a political party to have a constitution or even to have guidelines. For instance, one other thing that you notice in this law that we are making today is that we are now making it impossible for political parties to transmit the result of primaries to INEC. Everything that we do is INEC must certify, INEC must sign. So if INEC is going to certify and sign, why then will you go to the office and send a letter to INEC?
In some places.
But are you going to send the letter already certified by INEC and signed by INEC to INEC? So what we are doing here is that we have handed over even primaries to INEC, because the political party should be able to conduct its primaries, direct or indirect, and thereafter transmit the results of that indirect or direct primaries to INEC. And INEC must have monitored it, and it is on the basis of its report that INEC will say, yes, what they have transmitted is in line with what we monitored. But where we say that INEC must sign and certify any primaries result, and then you go back and say you are sending that same primaries result to INEC, please, let's have everything. Law should be forever.
Distinguished colleagues, I think there's a fundamental matter that we need to resolve. In the opening discussion today, I think we all agreed that we should leave the parties to decide whether they're doing direct or indirect. Now, if we have taken that position, can we really now also dictate or approve these items in the bill that is clearly saying specifically what the parties can do? I think that's really the question that we need to decide now. So I'll take contributions, but let us, so that we can conclude and decide which way we want to go forward on this matter. Chairman INEC, let me take your...
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, thank you. In the present Electoral Act, Section 87, subsection 4, it was clearly stated a political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for the choice of its candidate shall adopt the procedure outlined below. And it has clearly on 2 pages here all procedures for indirect primaries. What we did was we changed those procedures to adopt, like the one that Senator Jibrin just mentioned. It says that a political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for the choice of its candidate shall clearly outline in its constitution and rules the procedure for the democratic election of delegates to vote at the convention, congress, or meeting, in addition to delegates already prescribed in the constitution of the party. So, and what we have gone to prescribe is that we took that out, and we added in number 17 that a political appointee at any level shall not be a voting delegate at the convention or congress of any political party for the purpose of nomination of candidates for any election under indirect primaries.
Yes, correct. That is correct.
So, which page?
It's correct.
Page 37.
Correct. Yes.
Page 37, number 17, at the bottom there. Page 37 of 52.
The political appointee at any level shall not be voting delegates at the convention.
No more review.
Chairman, that only addresses political appointee. But what about members of State of Assembly or members of National Assembly? Yeah, but there's no way here that caters for that. Okay, back to that. Let's go back to so the point you are saying, Chairman, is that though we have agreed that the parties are responsible for what kind of primaries, we should still, in the law, provide guidelines. Yes? Okay, so I think that is resolved now. So if that is resolved, then we'll go back to the point Senator Jibril raised, which has now been addressed in 17 as regards political appointment. The only thing that has not been addressed is elected. So when we get to page 37, we can make the necessary amendment to address that. Are we happy with that? Okay. Senator Dino, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, while I completely agree with the postulation now, I just want to say that the issue of INEC endorsing or certifying the delegate list seem to be restricted to delegates for indirect primaries. So I am of the opinion that where did you? Okay.
When they come to the other one, you see it.
Okay.
Go back to page 22. The first 87.
Mr. Chairman, I've seen it, but the only addition to that is that why it is very important is because the list endorsed by INEC must be relied upon eventually in the conduct of primaries. I said it, what I'm saying is because of our past experiences where new delegates lists just emerge from National Secretariat of Political Parties, I am of the opinion that it must be stipulated clearly that the endorsed lists of delegates by INEC on the day of voting for delegates must be relied upon for the conduct of primaries. It should be clearly stipulated. Because since INEC is going to observe and monitor the conduct of the delegate list, and they will just monitor and endorse after the expiration of when the list emerge, then that list should be the one endorsed by INEC should be relied upon for the conduct of all primaries. By political parties, yes.
Yes, leader.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to re-echo what the distinguished Senator Dino is saying. You remember, I'm sorry again, I have to go refer to this. Remember when you have a list, delegates list, before election, primaries as certified by INEC, then when you get to the real primaries day, another new venue, another new list will emerge and cause confusion. That's what Dino is now saying, that we must put checks that the delegates list to be so used must be verified by or certified by INEC. Otherwise, you have a new list from the party headquarters and the list that is already existing in the state. But minority leader can explain more because they did a lot of that.
Just a second, minority leader. So, leader, what is the amendment that let's say we can
and seconding Dino's amendment, that the list, the delegates list to be used must be verified or certified or endorsed by INEC before certified by INEC.
My name is contribute. But while minority leader is making his contribution, Senator Magige and Chairman INEC, can you start working on what this possible amendment could be? Then I'll come back to you for your comments. Yeah, minority leader.
Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues, I'm not taking you back, just to make a point that I had an uncle who was a medical doctor. He had something on the wall of his clinic, and he said, if rape is inevitable, why don't you relax and enjoy it? The changes we are making now are changes that will be changed. Because from what I've seen here, these laws are being changed in view of what PDP used to do, not in view of what the right thing ought to be done. Now, INEC is not composed of angels, and we are now dumping so much powers on INEC. Where these chambers is today, I just want to, just a word of caution, sir. We are dumping so much powers on INEC today because we are thinking of what used to happen in the past. But we should not forget that INEC is not composed of angels. INEC is not composed of spirits. They are composed of Nigerians. And so, tomorrow, some of us who are making these laws may also cry foul that see what INEC is doing. We have taken away the powers of political parties to even do guidelines for their primaries because INEC must endorse. The delegates list that should come from the party, INEC must say this is my own delegates list. So if you have a different delegate list from APC, the one of INEC will be used, and that is what the Dino is saying. I want to agree in totality with this change because I know that there will be need to change the change. I so submit.
Distinguished colleagues, I think that we cannot just waive what the minority leader has said. I know that we're trying to also correct mistakes from the past, but I think in doing that we need to really truly balance these issues because, as he said, you know, everywhere they're all Nigerians, so we need to be careful on how much we swing from one end to the other, because we have scenarios where people who are not popular in their states can just enter a building, maneuver just 2 or 3 very junior officers, and before you know it, what they cannot achieve in the state, they achieve it here in Abuja. So I think there's need for us to really reflect over this. So I think we'll take our time, take contributions from people on colleagues, what we really think is the best way for us to handle this issue of trying to, in as much as we don't want the abuse or the domination, particularly in the states, that has been ascribed to the governors or to the structure, at the same time, we need to be careful how much powers we give to INEC. So I'll take comments from everybody and we can take, aside from DSP.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I think one of the greatest problems we've had with our election is the primaries. So this issue of primaries, I'm sure, even if it takes us the whole day to resolve, is very important. And the Supreme Court and most courts have been of the view that it is the political party that decides listen. So what I'm making, sir, is that this issue of deciding the best way to handle the primaries is very fundamental. Listen. So the issue of the primaries is very fundamental in the advancement of our political process. So even if it's going to take us the whole day to resolve this issue, I'm all for it. Having said this, sir, I suggest strongly that we must give the political parties. The Supreme Court have decided that it is the business of the political parties to decide who their candidates will be. So, and I think that we still say, I think it is important that as much as possible we must to perform this responsibility without so much inhibition. What I would like to suggest therefore is that as we grow, we continue to learn. While we try to reduce the influence of the National Electoral Commission in the management of primaries, I also would like to suggest what is also working in Ghana for them, because we have to learn from other jurisdictions, and that is the essence of a globalized world. In Ghana, for instance, it is not the political parties that conduct primaries. It is their electoral commission. So what I would like to suggest, therefore, that if we remove part of this influence of the electoral commission on the parties, we may, at the end of the day, make a further proviso that a political party may, through the decision of their National Electoral Executive Committee, give the National Electoral Commission the powers to conduct their primaries. In that case, we know that the parties have not on their own given INEC the responsibility to conduct their primaries as an alternative platform. If the party decides to do that, fine. If they don't decide, that's their own business. But that's what happens in Ghana. No party conducts primaries in Ghana. It's the Electoral Commission. Because that keeps the Electoral Commission busy at all times. They have engaged at all material time. So I would like to suggest, therefore, that while we remove some of these restrictions on the party through the INEC, we should also, at the end of the day, say that notwithstanding this position, a political party may, on their own, through the decision of their National Executive Committee, assign a responsibility to the Independent National Electoral Commission the business of conducting their primaries. So that's my suggestion. So that in each case, if the party decides that, look, we don't want to conduct the primaries, decide they come and conduct their primaries, in that case, we have on their own decided to give the INEC all the powers, and they take responsibility for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A lot has been said, but I just wish to confirm and affirm one key, very important issue. Primaries, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, are part and parcel of the procedure that is intended to create out of normal situation through democratic process of producing a flag bearer. Therefore, in my own opinion, Mr. Chairman, both INEC and leadership of the parties have key unavoidable responsibilities. With due respect to my leader, the Deputy Senate President's last suggestion, we have a flurry of number of parties, a situation where we narrow that the party can, through transfer of its own instrument, assign INEC to conduct primaries. Primaries are not conducted with no funding implications. In fact, we can stand bold to say some of those costs are too prohibitive. With a number of parties, we stand the chance of meddling into issues where we put on INEC what it does not possess the budget to prosecute. Number two, Mr. Chairman, some of these key provisions that are made, in my own opinion, is the very necessary provisions that will not allow what we have seen, or at least some of the things we have seen across all parties, not limited to one party, across all parties, where the issue of the right to choose either through the direct primaries, registered card carrying members of the party are relegated to the background, or situations under delegates indirect primaries where days to the election appointments are made, which luckily part of that provision has successfully been axed off our election procedure as far as where we have reached. Mr. Chairman, sir, lastly, in my own opinion, like the Deputy Senate President has indicated, we shouldn't be in a rush. We should take time, go through item by item, even the items under the direct primaries that have been provided. In my own opinion, Mr. Chairman, we should take time to go through them one after the other. If there is the need to expand them, if there is the need to really put them on ground to make them stronger, we need to do that. So also under the indirect primaries, if that is what the party chooses to prosecute according to its own constitution, we should make sure we go through it item by item. We should not allow those kind of sweeping powers that we have seen in the past that has given leaderships of the parties sweeping powers to put even aside elected representatives of the primaries and at the end of the day exploit just a provision of the law under their own party to hoist on the people at the end of the day somebody who is not the choice of the party through any medium. Mr. Chairman, this is a procedure we are going through that is very, very necessary. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, I would appeal that at this stage of clause by clause contribution, our contribution should also include amendments or corrections or whatever to what we want to do. So that will guide us. Senator Mwagege, I think you want to say something.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to make some clarification here that will guide us. To begin with, Mr. President, in looking at the kind of powers or lack thereof that we're giving to INEC over the primary system, let us first cast our mind back to the original Section 31 of the Electoral Act before its amendment. That was the section that originally conferred on INEC the power to actually disqualify candidates. But of course, the National Assembly rose against that and made that amendment and removed the power to disqualify candidates from INEC. The only power now given to INEC under 85 and 87 of the Electoral Act is the power, Mr. President, to monitor and observe these primaries. What we are seeking to do here right now, Mr. President, that in the process of that monitoring and observation, their report that they monitored and observed, and that this is the product of their observation and monitoring, that report, as Dino has canvassed, should be the basis for which of those delegates that emerged from the process to vote. So that is the amendment that Dino moved. And that is the amendment I also will second. And Mr. President, my chairman will rise shortly to provide the amendment. But what Dino didn't see, sir, on page 29, dealing with election of delegates for indirect primaries, clause 7 of it, there's a proviso which Dino apparently didn't see. He said, provided that the delegates' election shall be monitored by the commission, and the result of every delegate's election shall be endorsed or certified by the commission. No, it is already there. But Dino, apparently, Mr. President, Dino didn't see this. This is the proviso. If Dino had seen this, I'm sure maybe his motion would have been superfluous. So I'm rising, Mr. President, to give a clarification that what Dino sought to achieve with that amendment is already there. And I wish to draw his attention to it. And by the way, Mr. President, we are not asking for anything new here. This is already there. It's already there in the Electoral Act. And we must not forget, Mr. President, only a few days ago, about a week ago, the Supreme Court the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court spoke with respect to the primaries in Ondo, Mr. President. We know why the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Jagede. It was because it was his own primaries, Mr. President, that was monitored and supervised by INEC, unlike the one that produced Jimo Ibrahim that took place in Oyo State. That was the only basis, Mr. President, that the Supreme Court resolved that matter in favor of Jagede. So what we're asking for here, Mr. President, takes care of that mischief. And it's already there. It's nothing new, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sir, assume INEC had gone. Let's take the case of Ondo State. Assume INEC had decided to be mischievous and had gone to the primaries in Ibadan and certified that. Based on the law, does that mean that that's the primary that will now be the? Yes, Omar.
Sir, the answer to that is actually provided in the legal advice that was given to INEC. Under Section 85 of the Electoral Act, notice ought to have, and indeed was given to INEC about the content of that primaries. And INEC could not have received the two notices because the Jimo or the other faction, I don't know what it was, but they did not give notice. It was only the McAfee, if I'm right, only the McAfee faction that provided the requisite notice, which formed the basis for INEC to go to Ondo. But the other faction did not produce any notice. There could be two notices, Mr. President.
Thank you. INEC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I think, may I suggest a slight amendment to take care of this so that we can move forward. To take care of the concerns raised by Gino. Even though there's a proviso, just like stated by my colleague, that the delegates' election shall be monitored by the Commission and the result of every delegate's election shall be endorsed or certified by the Commission. May I add, and such endorsed and certified list shall be used for the conduct of the primaries.
Correct.
Even now, that is the way it happens. Even now.
Page 29.
That is
Chief Acting Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. For just a few minutes, I thought you forgot that you forced me to be the Vice Chairman of INEC, because if you had called me earlier on, I would have made exactly the same suggestion he had made minutes ago. So I second it, and I want to remind us that tomorrow there will be a national election in Ghana. And in Ghana, by law, it is their commission that supervises primaries. But because of our own experience in Nigeria, in which INEC officials can be manipulated to manipulate primaries, we say we want the party to organize the primaries. Our concern now as a legislature is that in doing so, they are fair to everyone. And therefore what we are saying is, let them witness what the party members themselves have conducted. Let them endorse. It is not they who conduct. They are simply witnesses to the fact that the process has been free and fair. And so I rise to second what my chairman has proposed.
Distinguished collegial information.
Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues, well, whilst we are debating on this issue, I want to agree with Senator Hongui that it's very important that we waste time on this so that we can get it right. We are currently in court with Senator Bassi because a former member of the House of Reps who did not contest election in Akwa Ibom went to INEC and obtained a fake delegates list and took Albert to court. The case is in court right now. Is it Court of Appeal? is now in Federal High Court. That the delegates list that was used in doing his own primaries was not the correct one. And went to INEC, got some boys in INEC, they stamped, certified a different delegates list for him. And that's what we are discussing here now. So I'm saying that when it rains, it does not rain on one roof. So let us try and make a law for Nigerians. I may not even contest election in future, but I'm in sympathy with Nigerians here. Another thing is that I'm the vice chairman of the Judiciary Committee. As I speak now, the cases of 2005 on cabotage and others have not even been brought forward in the Supreme Court. Nigerians cannot get justice because justice delayed is justice denied. Today we are making laws that will bring more cases to the court. Because if you are saying that 9,340 delegates, that INEC must certify each delegate before coming to certify the totality of the delegates list submitted by a political party, everybody will go one by one on each delegate and say, where is the INEC certification on this particular delegate? And then the result is that we are multiplying the number of cases we are going to have in court after the next election. So why are we making laws that we don't even have the finances? In the first place, INEC, it does not even have the personnel or the finances to monitor each delegate. In Nigeria today, all the units in Nigeria, please, all the units in Nigeria, we don't have a single policeman cannot man all polling units in Nigeria today, including the IG. And so you are saying that in a state where you have over 9,000, 10,000 delegates, you have 10,000 INEC officials who will go to each of those delegates' primaries and endorse. And then in other states, and then by the time you finish that in 36 states of the Federation, sir, we are over multiplying the number of legal matters that will arise. And we have a point in court, a case in court today that is in line with what we are doing here. Let us not overburden INEC. Let us allow INEC to monitor primaries and maybe certify the general result of the primaries, the totality of it, not individual delegates. And thereafter, we of course, otherwise we are taking away any function that a political party could have had. I don't believe in what political parties were doing, but I foresee more problems in future. I just submit.
Just before I put the question, there's a point that the minority leader just talked about on the issue of certification of delegates election. Does that mean, for example, that even delegates election at the ward level, local government level, will be certified by INEC as well?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is what is even obtainable today. And INEC has the capacity to do that. INEC has in every local government, in every ward, they have a staff in every ward. No. Yeah, they endorse it. They should endorse or certify it. What are you scared of?
Distinguished colleagues, let's put a question then. Clause 18.7. Dr. 18.7 is now with an amendment, and I'll read. 18.7 talks about the political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for nomination of candidates for election shall conduct a delegates election in all registration areas in the constituency where the elections to be held, and all registered members of the party in that registration area shall be eligible to vote for any contestant who presents himself to be a delegate for the party, provided that the delegates election shall be monitored by the commission, and the result of every delegates election shall be endorsed or certified by the commission, and such endorsed and certified list shall be used for the purpose of the primaries. Those in favor for the conduct of the primaries, those in favor that these amendments should stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 18.8. Oh, 17. Yeah, Sanjay Jibril.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Barok Jibril. I represent Kano North. Mr. Chairman, 8 and 9 read as follows. a political party leader or official who is not affected, who is not elected in his or her registration area as a delegate of his or her party under subsection 7 of this section shall not be a voting delegate of the party and shall not vote in his or her party's indirect primaries, but may perform his or her functions in a neutral as may be prescribed in his or her party's constitution in relation to indirect primaries. Okay, now sir, I am referring, in fact, in section 8, in section 9, section 9 even says anyone who contravenes this law will be sent to prison or will pay a fine of 1 million naira. So my amendment is to expunge 8 and 9, and it should read as follows. There should be a new section 8, and it should read as follows. Every elected party official and anyone holding an elective office is eligible to vote at any indirect primary election of a party, of his party or her party. That is super delegate, councillor, House of Rep members, governor, and everybody. I say elected person. Elected person.
When we get to page 37, I think it is, where we are talking about political appointee shall not be a voting delegate, that will address the issue of elected members. So by that time we will address.
No, a party official who is elected that he is not eligible to vote, and if he votes, he will be taken to prison. You see, a political party leader or official.
Party official.
Who is not elected? Okay, who is not elected? Okay, thank you.
Yes, Senator Lidani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there is an issue here which I would want INEC to address. From these delegates, it appears for each ward there is going to the law is not very clear as to the number of delegates that will be elected in a registration area. Is it only one delegate? Is it two? Is it how many? It's not very clear. How many delegates are? It's for the party to decide.
Yes. That's why I agree with you that.
So that is why I said earlier on that let us leave this matter for the parties to decide. If we now
I mean, we discussed this fundamental issue that the party is to conduct whether direct or indirect primaries, but there are certain aspects that we will still state and guide in the law, and that doesn't mean that we must guide everything. So I think if you know, so let me put the question on 8 and 9. Correction, yes, Senator Samayan.
Mr. Chairman, just section 9, just a minor correction. A party leader or official who not on controverse, who contravenes.
You have the floor, Senator Matthew Rogidi.
I think, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, you will find out that even the provision in 18A, where neutral is, I think capacity should go. Capacity should be put in there to correct where it is ambiguous.
Neutral capacity.
In a neutral capacity, yes, as may be prescribed in his or her party's constitution in relation to indirect primaries. The neutral capacity, that's 18A. Just that we have corrected 18.9.
Neutral. All right, Secretary, take note of that. Yes, Senator Sonny Wuji.
Section 9. I think it should read a party leader official as corrected already who contravenes the provisions of subsection 8, not subsection 9.
Okay. Yes, Senator David.
this section clause 9 that prescribes punishment for a party leader or official that contravenes the provisions of the law. I find that because of the additional roles being given to INEC as far as the conduct of the primaries is concerned, that we should equally create punishment for those who will go and hide somewhere and write results to bring. That will take care of the fear that the chairman had expressed earlier on when we were on that clause.
Correct.
Chairman INEC, I'm surprised that was omitted in your deliberation.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think there is a general provision for contravention by officials of INEC because this is the election of delegates. We also have the primary election coming up. This is the election of delegates.
Yeah,
but we can individually include also the officials of INEC.
Officials in the election of delegates, so there must be sanctions too if they abuse those powers in the election of delegates. That's different from the election in conducting the primaries itself. So I think that amendment. So if David Dumoro can please guide us in and make a suggestion on the amendment, then we'll see whether we can get someone to second the amendment you're proposing. 9. David Dumoro.
That may take us back to the penultimate 8 and 9. Maybe we should come under 6. But we already passed that, but we can maybe create a new subsection after 2. Maybe 3, page 29, that any INEC official that contravenes the provisions of subsection 6 commits an offense and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment for 1 year or so, or a fine of 1 million naira or any amount that you find appropriate. Or both. That is subclause 6. 6A, no, 6 clause 6.
To come at the end of the exercise, isn't it? Because it has to do with both direct and indirect. So I think it has to be subsection 6 and 7. Yeah? So that
I have a little, because you see there is a provision that is a part of the Electoral Act that deals with punishment. And I'm thinking that all these punishments that we have created ought to be banished to that particular section. That will make it more tidier, than to have them, separate. But if we must, we can create, like I said, we can create it under any.
Yes, you want to contribute?
Under section 8, only a party official can commit offense here. INEC cannot commit offense under section 8. Because under section 8, yes, under section 7. So what we can do, sir, is we can take section 9 as it is and put the question. Then we can create a different section at end. Because the only offense an INEC person can commit here is to issue a false statement. So what we can do is at the end of this subsection, we say that any INEC official who issues a false declaration or statement of a primaries shall commit so and so offense. But for points of section 8 and 9, there's no way an INEC official can commit an offense there. Yes.
Get an amendment ready so that we'll take that as different subsection. Okay, I'll put the question then. Those in favor that clauses 18, 8, and 9 with the corrections, that's in neutral capacity, and then in 9, an official who contravenes subsection 8. Those in favor of section 18, 8, and 9 stands part of bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So we now are suggesting that there's a new section that will be introduced. Which will state something to the effect that any INEC official that contravenes that issues a false report of a primary, either, but we don't need to say whether it's direct or indirect, just primary, issue for a primary, commits an offense and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment for 1 year or a fine of 1 million naira. Or both. Somebody second the DSP's amendment. Senator Sonny Agoji.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the new subsection as stated by the distinguished Deputy Senate President, that any INEC official who issues a false report on the primaries shall, on conviction, commits an offense and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment of 1 year or a fine of 1 million naira or both. I so second.
Which is just been seconded for a new subclause to say any INEC official that who issues a false report for a primary commits an offense and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment for 1 year or a fine of 1 million naira or both. Those in support of this new subsection say aye. The stands part those against say nay. The ayes have it. Okay. Next one, which will now be the new 1811 indirect primaries. A political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for elections to ensure that all aspirants are given equal opportunity to be elected, to be voted for the delegates. Yes, DSP.
So there's one tricky issue with this. The issue is whether an aspirant needs to be a delegate. That is to say, if you have a form to contest, must you also contest to be an aspirant? And suppose you lose to be a delegate, can you contest to be a delegate? Suppose you go to contest to be a delegate and you lose, does that stop you from contesting? This was an issue in the primaries last time. And the post of the political party were saying that you must be a delegate in order to be an aspirant. The matter went to court in Plateau State. And the Federal High Court said no, that once you are an aspirant, you're automatically a delegate. Because otherwise, that means you cannot even vote for yourself. So I think we need to capture it here. To say that irrespective, provided that any aspirant should also be a delegate. Should be an automatic delegate. An aspirant should be an automatic delegate.
Distinguished Chairman, my dear colleagues, actually, to be honest, the Deputy Senate President, you made a lot of sense in what you said. The only problem is in respect of governorship election. We found out that sometimes it might be easier for governorship aspirants to sponsor more aspirants who automatically become automatic delegates, and then he will have the floor. For instance, somebody who is very loaded can sponsor, because we experimented with women that they should not buy forms. The forms should be given to them free. And so some people try to collect forms. The total number of delegates that should vote for a governor, if they are about 700, somebody will go and buy and collect forms for about 450 women. And then of course, not serious. But at the end of the day, you find out that he has those 450 women, he intends to win that election. So if we say that people should be automatic delegates, those who have money will sponsor people to go and buy forms, and therefore they become automatic delegates, and automatically he has won the primaries. And then that will not be a fair and free primaries. So it will be an interesting thing that we can allow anybody who wants to be a candidate to contest whether he is a delegate or not. So long as he buys form to contest for the candidature of the constituency, he should be allowed to contest whether he buys form or not. But the issue of having a voting right should only be if he wins as a delegate, because that way you don't end up allowing somebody with deep pocket to buy forms and give to thousands of people and win the primaries. So let the person that contests the election automatically be a contestant in that election, whether he or she has won as a delegate.
The law already make allowance for that. That is, if you are contesting, if you are contesting and you're not a delegate, but you can contest even though you're not a delegate. That's already, yeah. So if that is already taken care of, I think we should leave it as that. Yes. All right. So I'll put the question there. Those in favor that item 18, yes.
Mr. Chairman, sir, I'm Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West Central District. The issue raised by the distinguished Deputy President of the Senate is this. If I am an aspirant for any of the offices that is going to Congress for nomination, is it sufficient for me to be an aspirant and qualified to be a delegate for the purposes of primaries in which I am involved, an aspirant? Or must I be a delegate ab initio so that I could come to a Congress venue, if I'm not a delegate, once they finish what I'm contesting for, I'm out. That's the implication if we go by what is. But I think the standard practice is this. If I'm contesting election, I should be able to qualify as a delegate anyway to the primary. But if I am frustrated deliberately and I'm not able to get a delegate seat, which happens, all right, is that allowed? Or should we make provision for that kind of thing to happen? That's the point that the DS made. Thank you.
Deputy Senate President raised that if you are an aspirant, shouldn't we make provisions for you to be a delegate? Automatic. And the minority leader raised a very valid observation that if you are an aspirant and you allow an aspirant to be an automatic delegate, then it is possible, feasible, that you can now go and get as many aspirants possible who are automatic delegates, and they can decide to vote one candidate. That what you want to achieve as an aspirant is for you to be present, I guess, at the venue by which the election is taking place. And once you are present at that, I think that is enough. It doesn't mean that you have the right to be a delegate. Now, but if you want to be a delegate, you can go and be a delegate as well. But it doesn't stop you as an aspirant being able to vie for that position. I think that's the point you're making. Yeah, Chief Whip.
Thank you very much. I think it's safe to assume that an authentic aspirant as delegate will vote for himself or herself. It is the ones who are smuggled in by some super rich who will now go and vote for one person. I think the safe way to say, if you will vote for yourself because you are authentic, then you cancel each other. So the best we can do is to say, if you are an aspirant, you can be a non-voting delegate. Because even if you vote for yourself and you cancel each other out.
Whether if you're a non-voting delegate, then you are really an observer. Because so I think we're back to the way that we should just leave it as it is. Because as an aspirant, you are present at the process. So I think we should leave it and let's make progress. So I'll put the question there. Those in favor that section 18, subsection 11 now stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. 1812, which is the old 11, which is on page 31. Chairman, can you explain this 11A1, where you say hold a special convention in each of the 36 states? Is that a new? Okay, can you explain to us?
I think this is intended for the presidential candidates most especially. In most cases, they wait in Abuja, Eagle Square, or the stadium in Lagos, and the governors or the leaders of the party bring delegates to them and they elect them at Eagle Square. What we are trying to say here is that presidential candidates should have a feel of each of the 36 states, including Abuja. So when we have indirect primaries, you have delegates, they should have the primaries in the state capitals. And thereby they will have to probably go there and campaign for votes, and then day of election have their agents present.
You'll probably be staggered, because will it be happening on the same day in all the 36 states?
Well, depending on what the party, because that section that says the party can do staggered election is also included.
Comments? Yeah, Manager Leader and then Central Leader.
Again, sir. Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, I'm speaking because I've had the privilege of contesting election as governor twice and also as a senator. With the proposal there will not work because somebody who is the presidential candidate should be present at the venue where the presidential nomination is taking place. And it's in order to, even as an observer, all the presidential candidates should be allowed to be there. So if we do it in zones, it will be better. But if we do it state by state, it means that as a presidential candidate, you will be in your house, and of course you will be in your own state, and 35 states of the federation are also voting. I don't think it will be the right thing because you will not be able to know whether it is fair. You don't understand. That's why by the time they came for their final convention, they normally do it, presidential convention in US, and then the Republican convention, where they nominate their candidates. They have their procedures now.
But they ratify, they don't elect.
You want to, that it took them 240 years to get to that point. You want these 16 years. These 16 years to get us to American level.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this provision will make the process too tedious and cumbersome. If delegates are elected at the various ward levels, let these delegates now go on a date appointed to go for the national convention where the presidential candidate will emerge. But if you say after you have been elected as a delegate, you now go to the state level and then you elect a presidential candidate and then later on another convention itself and you go and ratify, I think it's making it too tedious and too cumbersome. After the delegate election, the next thing that will be done is for a national convention of the party to be held somewhere in which all the delegates will now come and participate and vote and elect their own presidential candidate, so that we eliminate the practice of having to go and participate in a state convention. So I would rather we delete this provision and allow just item 11.2 to take to hold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this provision, Mr. Chairman, is a new innovation, and we cannot continue to write and write what we have been having all over the years. Mr. President, if we decentralize presidential primaries to state, it will encourage grassroots democracy, because a number of people will converge in the state to witness the primary election of the president, in which case, if it was to be at the national level, and that number of people may not be able to come. That's one. And secondly, the usual national convention we used to have is so much prone to manipulation at the convention center. We have seen it so many times where even at level of a minister is not allowed to vote for a presidential candidate. They'll say somebody is there to write for you. And he will write for you whether you like it or not. Because you are seeing what is happening in Adama, you are seeing what is happening in Taraba, in Enugu, and so on and so forth. So even if you have a particular candidate in mind, you are likely to be made to be forced to choose a particular candidate of the day at that national convention. So I think this is a new innovation, and I think this chamber should support this new innovation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, Secretary Imo East. I am not going to say anything different from what Senator Kara said. What we said that it's good for people to participate. And let us look at the security aspect of it. In many occasions, people have lost their lives traveling from one state to the other, coming to Abuja. We have seen so many cases like that. And I think if we allow it the way it is here by the committee, it's very apt. It gives a participation in this democratic setting. So I think it's out. And if we do this, Mr. Chairman, what happened last time where some governors walked away from this, it wouldn't have happened. Led by, so, I think it is important that we do. Led by who? Led by who? Important, sir.
Senator Samayo, your mic. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Abdullahi Adamu. I represent Nasarawa West Senatorial District. Mr. President, innovations can be attractive, particularly when they point towards the positive end. But I'm afraid I do not want to run or attempt to run when I am not crawling properly. In a country like Nigeria, where a whole zone or two can decide to shut off a candidate, whether it is at the state level or at the national level, where there can be sufficient underground work, and no matter how good a candidate is, through some whipping system, a candidate can be shut off from a zone or a local government completely. We are trying to compare ourselves with a country that has been in this democratic practice for not less than about 225 years. And in spite of their experience over this period, the last election, well, can you say America? What happened in America last election? Till today, they're not concluded.
I agree with you.
And we want to just be copycats. I believe our democracy is developing. I believe, yes, we are making mistakes here and there. But our capacity to address the problems as we see them is better than just lifting a whole practice from some countries that were planted into Nigeria. it wouldn't work. So I believe that once delegates are elected at the various levels are provided by the constitution of every political party, those candidates should be able to go for their national convention. If nothing else, it gives the rural politician at the grassroots an opportunity to participate at the national level, the national venue, to elect a person that he or she believes will best represent him. I think we must be not too much in a hurry to do away with what we are doing now. We are trying to perfect even what we are doing now. And without perfection, we are trying to throw it away, throw the baby with the dirty water, and adopt something that we call an American way of I think it is not right. We should try to perfect what we have before we leave.
Mr. Chairman, first I endorse completely this development, and I will give my reasons. One is that we cannot wish away the security situation in Nigeria now. A situation where we bring every Nigerian to Abuja or anywhere for a national convention, for me is very scary. Each time I see Nigeria assemble in one place in that number, I get very, very worried. So I think that this can be addressed by this decentralized form of indirect primaries. In that case, what I therefore suggest is that while the issue of voting as states shall be compulsory, the other leg, which is national convention, should be optional. So that what it now says that they shall hold this special convention in the states. The next paragraph is that may hold the one for the ratification. Now, and besides, sir, we have to look at the cost implication of bringing people from different places. Now we are in recession. So the amount, whatever money we can save by holding this election in states will help. Because somebody can walk from his house to the convention center in his state, but you can't do that from your state to Abuja. So again, you have to look at the issue raised by Senator Anyang, the incidence of accident. Because each time we hold a convention in Abuja, at least 10 to 20 persons lose their lives. We can save these lives by holding this in the states. So these reasons recommends the fact of this centralized form of primaries. So I think that is something we need to give a trial.
Question. Let me put the question level. Put the question. You see one more contributions? Okay, Senator Baribe. Then I'll come to you, guy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just put before all my colleagues here one aspect of this that we are tending to gloss over, and that is the aspect of ethnicity. If we do special conventions in our various localities, there is also the tendency that people could be induced in those localities that they can never see an outsider as a viable candidate. And what it means, which is why I tend to agree with a former BOT, because the former BOT of the greatest party in Nigeria, that I think that coming to a national convention tends to actually give us the leeway to be able to be national in our outlook rather than where we come from. And I think that we must put that as part of what we will consider in considering this particular section.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Kabiru Gaya from Kano South, or from Kano State, representing the people of Kano South. Mr. President, I agree with the views raised by Senator Abdullah Adamu, and then my junior colleague, Deputy Governor Abaribi. Your Excellency, this has been the tradition that we hold convention nationally at national headquarters to make it more national.
invite people from all parts of the country to be united as party members to decide the flag bearer. Now, we have also a clear division between indirect and direct primaries. Direct primaries go down to the villages and local governments. Indirect, it shows uniting the people at one location. There is no point to say we have to do another semi-direct or indirect at state levels. We should have convention, a national convention, invite all delegates to come to the headquarters and decide the flag bearer of that party. Otherwise, we put it at state level, it may be difficult to convince other people at different states to vote a candidate not from their own area. We did option A4 in 1992, and we had similar problem in 93. So, Mr. President, I support the motion heavily moved by Abdullah Adamu and Senator Abaribi. I think we should change that, remove the issue of doing presidential elections at state levels. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Baroji Brinkanulov. Mr. Chairman, this provision is open to intimidation. People will be intimidated to vote according to certain pattern. If you allow this to hold, I remember what happened during 2003 election. It happened here in Eagle Square, where ballot boxes were kept for each state. And it was expected that every governor must deliver the vote of that state to a certain candidate. And it was monitored. So if you allow this, somebody here will make sure that voters in a particular state are forced to vote according to a certain pattern. I remember again, sir, when there was this primary election between Atiku and Obasanjo, the delegates in Kano, they were told to vote for Obasanjo, but they refused and voted for Atiku because the election did not take place in Kano. It took place here.
No, it's not Atiku.
They voted for Atiku. It's my state, I'm telling you. It's my state, PDP. If it was, okay, not Obasanjo, it was between Atiku and Goodluck Jonathan. If that election had taken place in Kano, of course, I voted for Goodluck Jonathan. So it is open to intimidation. We should not allow this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
More contribution I put to vote. Senator Dino.
Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, if we say we are a federating unit and practicing federalism, we must not reduce ourselves back to regionalism and myopism. Mr. Chairman, my colleagues, we are running away from the dominance structure of governance. That's why we amended or we abrogated the use of special delegates, where a month to a primary, the governor will wake up and appoint 500 special assistant advisors who automatically become delegates. We have just corrected and ameliorated that. Why do we now want to take us back to that dark age where a delegate will be told, vote before you vote, show your vote to somebody before you cast it? It will be monitored. Number two, sir, we are also exposing ourselves to collation problems. Because if you vote across the 36 states and the federal capital, Abuja, there must be collation of those results. And we all know that electoral corruption in this country takes place during collation, either at state level or at local government level. It is at the point of collation that the results from wards and local governments will not tally with what is being collated. If we go by what is being suggested, then there will be need for collation, and during collation there will always be room for corruption. We also know that it is cumbersome. It is too cumbersome and also open to litigation. You will have more litigations because Kaduna can protest, Sokoto will protest. So you have too many litigations and problems, and you will need to send panels to different states. You will need to set up appeal panels in 36 states and the federal capital, Abuja. And this is not going to help our democracy. Apart from being expensive, you will definitely have to conduct primaries in convention and congresses in each state across the 36 states of the federation. Where is that money come from? And now we are talking about change. And it will create enmity and division in the party. Because I cannot see how an Akpabio will be sitting down and an Albert will go and vote contrary to the view of an Akpabio. Yes. That is not possible. I agree with you. But if they are all in no man's land, Abuja, Akpabio will walk and cast his vote. Albert will walk and cast his vote. So please don't condemn this.
Distinguished colleagues, I think, let me put a question. It appears that there seems a general concession on this matter. Those in favor that the new item 12A1 stands part of bill, say aye. Those against say nay. Nays have it. Those in view that item 12A2 stands part of bill, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in support amendment, yes, Senator Gemade.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Barnabas Gemade, Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Having voted nay on Section 12A1, Section 12A2 will now need to be amended because it's no longer a national convention to ratify a candidate, but it's a national convention to elect a presidential candidate. So there is need to make an amendment of this clause to tally with the realities of voting nay for 12A1. I so move.
Can you make the amendment to 12A2 in line with the fact that we have rejected 12A1? Huh? Yeah, but you can no longer be ratification, if you see the point. So we need to amend that to now say elect. Okay. No, you can't be like that because there's no more special convention. All that has gone. So the entire two has to be redrafted. That's why so between yourself and okay, can we wait for you to redraft and do the same also? The same will apply to B2. Yes, Senator Gumel.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Abdullah Gumel from Jigawa, Northwest of Jigawa State. In view of what we have just adopted, Mr. Chairman, I think you may direct us to go back to the committee and redraft all these provisions we did from the president to the councillor in line with what we have just adopted, sir. So move, sir.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in view of that, I move that we defer this consideration to another legislative day so that they find time to draft it, and we are not time-bound.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you asked me to make amendments in light of what has happened. Yeah, we are ready. So, now 12A1 becomes hold a national convention where duly elected and eligible delegates of the party shall freely choose and vote for any presidential aspirant of the party at a place and date specified by the party. Okay. 12A1 becomes hold a national convention where duly elected and eligible delegates of the party shall freely choose and vote for any presidential aspirant of the party at a place and date specified by the party. No, come on. Is that clear?
Sir, please change place and to venue.
Yeah.
Mr. President, that's why I was suggesting that we defer. The convention is supposed to be where delegates, elected delegates from the state will not choose, elect their presidential flag bearer. So the amendment will be better done if the committee is given time to sit down and do it. That's why I say, since we are not time bound, that's why I say, let's defer it, let them do it right, and then we continue. Had it been we are time bound, then we'll say, let's do it now. Yes. It's not the drafting, sir.
Let me make a suggestion. Sir, I think this thing can be further simplified. If you take it from 10, I think which is 11, dealing with indirect primaries, it says a political party that adopts the system of indirect primaries for the nomination of each candidate for election shall ensure that all aspirants are given equal opportunity of being voted for by delegates of the party who shall be registered members of the party duly elected by registered members of the party as delegates in indirect primaries under Section 7. So that has taken care of some aspect of what it says. So what we now do under one in reference should be hold a national convention and publicly present the candidate with the highest number of votes in the special convention, full stop. Sir? No, it's a special convention because the president can hold other conventions. So it's not got to do with the earlier paragraph. No, the special convention of parties for primaries. Convention for party presidential primaries is usually called special convention. That's what it's called. What I'm saying is that when we go to that is 12.1 and simply say hold a national convention and publicly present the candidate with the highest number of votes. Yes.
To elect.
To elect.
The convention is to elect, sir.
Convention, full stop. Without all those long grammar.
Information, Minority Leader.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, my distinguished colleagues, I tend to share the view of the leader of the Senate that what we are doing is so serious that even if we give them 24 hours to go and redraft this thing and bring it back to us, it will be much more, it will meet with the status of the chambers. The reason I'm saying this is that the provision for indirect primaries presupposes that all registered members of the party will go and vote, will become automatic delegates because we are a registered member of the party for indirect primaries. So if we do not, no, I'm saying for indirect. So we have a provision for either indirect or direct, at least for other levels. It means that the indirect primaries will not apply to presidential candidates. Because if you are going to bring all registered members of APC from all states of the Federation to Abuja, it will be impossible. So there must be a provision there that says for the purposes of electing a presidential candidate, in spite of the provision for indirect primaries, that there will be delegates will emerge that will come for the presidential. I know delegates. So let them go and then tie it in a way that becomes legal, and then of course they can meet us in the Judiciary Committee so that we help them, and then we bring it back tomorrow. But if we rush it now, it will not work.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. In view of the decision reached by my distinguished colleagues, I move that we defer the consideration of this amendment to another legislative day. I so move.
Yes. Leader. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion moved by the leader. I so second.
In light of the contributions, the motions that we defer the consideration to another legislative day, give the committee 24 hours to look at this item and bring it back so that we can put it in the other paper and try and finish it as soon as possible. Those in favor of this motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having also observed I move that we revert to plenary to report progress.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we revert to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that revert back to plenary to report progress, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Okay. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Oath resume consideration of the report on the Committee on INEC, on the INEC Act number 6, 2010, Amendment Bill 2016, and approved as follows. Clause 18, sub-clause 1 to 11 as amended. Further consideration, bill has been deferred to another legislative day. The committee is to go back and within 24 hours come back with the necessary correction. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, having observed the mood of the Senate, including the Senate President and seconded by the DSP, I move that we stand down the rest of the items on the order paper to another legislative day. I so move.
Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion, ably moved by the leader, that we stand down the rest of the items on the other paper as a result of the move of the Senate to another legislative date. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that we stand down all the other items on the other paper to another legislative, they say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having exhausted the items on the other paper, I hereby move that this Senate do stand adjourned to Wednesday, 7th December at 10 a.m. prompt. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do adjourn to Wednesday, the 7th day of December at 10 a.m. prompt. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate adjourn to Wednesday, 7th December at 10 a.m. prompt say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned to Wednesday, 7th December 2016, 10 a.m.